Morning, everybody. Welcome to Pecan Market Live. I'm James Barry. Don't panic. David's not here. We're going to take a swing at doing this without him. Hopefully it goes all right. I have our favorite guest with us here, auction aficionado and author of the Stuttgart Letter, David Whitlock. Good morning, David.
Hey, good morning. What's going on?
How are you? Thank you for being here.
Well, absolutely.
This is a little weird for me.
Yeah, you're in the hot seat now.
Yeah, I'm in the hot seat.
Yep.
So don't unsubscribe just yet. Give us at least 3 tries.
You're going to nail it.
And we'll see how it goes.
All
right, so we have a little agenda today. We'll try to breeze through these, but the topics we're going to go through are, we're going to talk about the obvious elephant in the room, the market adapting, how the seller's adapting to it, how the buyer's adapting to it. We had a question come in from a user named Max. Wanted to know a little bit about 930s. We have some good comps we'll go through with him. And then we also had some questions about some of the tribute cars. And for a change, we actually have one modern tribute car to talk, well, modified car to talk about. So that's it. We'll jump right in. So I guess, what do you think about this market here? I read your newsletter every day. I see it come in. So obviously you have a big handle on it.
Yeah, we're just seeing a lot of the normal everyday, more so cars start to get softer and softer. Mm-hmm. The special cars are still remaining special. They're still holding their price. They're still up there. Even on some of the more normal cars, like just a 993 coupe, the really, really good examples, really special examples are still bringing the money.
Oh, yeah.
It's just the rest of the cars. And it's not falling off a cliff. Mm-hmm. We're just seeing a softer market. And it's different because it's the first time we've seen something like this in quite some time. But, I try to think maybe this is even a return to a seasonality of the market. And we haven't had a seasonal market in years. Uh-huh. It's just been up going. But, like me, you've been in the business for a long time. Prices used to drop in the fall and winter.
Yeah, but, special Porsches are special Porsches and special cars in general. But I do think that, anyone who was calm, cool, and collective during last year realized that even in a normal world, things have to normalize. It doesn't mean they're going to crash by any means. I wouldn't consider this a crash, but I would say look, if we go to the screen here, Eric, this was a 992 Touring, beautiful spec car with a manual, 2,000 miles. The guy only sold it because of a change of life. Mm-hmm. Wasn't a flip. This car would have been roughly 12 months ago, $3 to $325.
Yeah.
So this is still considerably over sticker. MSRP on this car was, of course it's cut off here, but, there it is, 206. So you're talking roughly 50,000 over sticker on this car.
And the Tourings were always, they were the stronger of the 992 GT3s.
Yes.
And they're the ones that stayed around that 300K mark for much longer while everything else has fallen off.
Exactly, yeah.
So, less built as far as the Touring body goes. But 992 GT3s, in general, they built a lot of them. And they're not done building them.
No, they're not done building
them.
So, and a lot of this is, I just look at real value. I really look at things like a dummy sometimes. The old Touring average sticker price, call it 170, right? That was a lot of car for 170, a lot. So it makes all the sense in the world that car is going to trade for 20 or 30,000 above sticker. You're still under 200 grand for a world-class car with 500 horsepower. This is not cheap.
No.
There are people that will drop 160 grand and not even think about it. $250,000, you got to think a little harder about that.
It's the next step up.
Yeah.
So, but again, they're just producing a bunch of them. Especially with things that happen with supply chain, the ship sinking. Porsche had to only produce so many cars with the supplies they had, with the wiring harness they had, so they produced the more expensive cars, the GT cars. They pump them out. So I think the market's just a little oversaturated.
Yeah. And I see Porsche reacting to this.
Yeah.
Or Porsche reacting to this. And I don't know if they're making all the right moves. Like discontinuing the Spider and the GT4. Great car.
Yeah.
I get, it was close to the GTS with the 4-liter. It didn't make a lot of sense, because if you got $100K to spend on a GTS with a 4.0, $15,000 more roughly to get a Spider. I don't think the financial part is going to stop someone from going to the Spider. So I think it's
not that much of a stretch.
Yeah,
to get into a Spider.
Exactly.
And they started to soften earlier on in the year, and they've kind of seemed to come around. Because I didn't understand it. Why is this softening more and more and more?
Yeah.
They're not going to make any more of these. This is it.
No.
That's the end of the line for such a great car.
I mean, to me, some people will shoot me for saying this, but that's the most exciting new car they make to me. A Boxster Spider and even the RS.
Yeah.
You know, the size is right, the look, the sound, you know, having that engine screaming right behind you, the stance of it. It's not too bulbous like, you know, some of the 992s. When you park a 992 next to a older 911, like in a collection,
it's
they
huge.
look weird.
Yeah.
You know, they look nice alone in the street, but they look weird in a collection. You know what I mean? But how do you feel the sellers versus the way the buyers are responding to this market?
So I'd say, you know, back in the end of 2022, beginning of 2023, we saw this softening before, and you get all of a sudden a lot of no sales. So I look at, you know, all of my charts and I see all these reds and no sales, but then sellers adjust their expectations. You know, people like you who are in the business looking at numbers are then talking to these sellers coming to these sites and saying, listen, this is what the market is now. And then we start to see more green, less no sales. And we're just in a period right now where over the last 30 days, you know, 60 days, there's a lot of red no sales. The ones that are selling are going down. Sellers are just going to adjust their expectations. In the next over the next 90 days, we'll see more green and less red.
The buyers, though, they're still there.
Yeah.
And they're not even trying to steal. They're just trying to say, hey, you know what? I don't want to pay a record, but, you know, I'll pay this.
Fair market.
Yeah.
Yep, fair market value.
Yeah.
And I've also seen a lot of the cars that have been selling recently, you know, haven't been the best examples either. So then you have these not so great examples selling for about where they should be, and it makes kind of as like, oh, the market's going down. Well, no, it's like what we saw in the Carrera GT market earlier this year. We had such a high Carrera GT market, and then it was like a $400,000 drop, but it's because it was all high mileage cars with paint.
Exactly.
So you can't compare that to the cream of the crop that was selling, you know, 6 months earlier.
We had that Carrera GT that sold, I'm trying to pull it up here. Here, Eric, this car. So this was a nice car. This was a one-owner car. We knew the gentleman who owned it. He was a friend. He passed away, unfortunately.
I remember this one.
And you know, some people just look at the comp. They go, 4,000 miles, 1.3, that's kind of cheap. Well, yes and no. Because this car needed everything in terms of the service. It was a great car, but it needed service. So it went to a really good collector. He brought the car up to the level it needed to be, and now it's probably like a 1.6 car.
Yeah, you put the money that it needed.
Yeah.
Yep. I remember this one, you know, it was sitting.
Yeah.
Because he had two of them, right?
He did. We
and
sold
the other one.
Yeah, yeah. He was still around. We sold that one because it was just in New York and he couldn't drive it. This one he actually drove. So you could imagine 86 or 88-year-old man driving this car. And he was an inspiration, that guy.
Oh, yeah, living the dream.
Yeah. So, all right, well, listen, let's jump into these 930s because I know Max had some questions and you have some insight to bring in. The 930 market it's all over the place right now.
Yeah, it's all over the place, and a lot of it has to do with just how long they made these cars.
Yeah.
Like, you look up 930, and it's from 1975 to 1989. That's a lot of cars within a data set.
Yeah, 930 is a general model configuration because there's a lot of stuff in there, and that could be a whole hour talk.
A lot to unpack. You know, the key years, and when you're looking at 930, you have those 75 through 77 cars, the original 3-liter cars.
Yeah.
Of those cars, the earlier cars, so those the first 400 or so cars are those super, super special ones because those are the cars Porsche had to make in order to homologate the 934 and the 935 for racing in the FIA.
See, a lot of people didn't know that.
Yep. So those are very, very, very special.
Similar to like what happened with the Carrera RS.
Correct. Exactly. Yeah. Same thing. Carrera RS. They need to go turbocharged with the race cars. This is how they went turbocharged. That's how we got the 935 eventually for Group 5 racing.
Yeah.
It was because of these. And Porsche didn't. They were unsure that they were going to be able to sell 400 of these at first.
Yeah.
They did that within just over the first, 75 to 76. By mid or late 76, they sold 1,000. And it just took off from here. Total 930 production, 75 to 89, something like 23,000 cars. And that seems like a lot. But again, 15 years.
Yeah, it's a 15-year span.
15 years.
We could probably sell 400 of them in a month if we had the inventory because it's such an iconic car. But what you said before was important. That is like the biggest takeaway in this whole discussion we're having here. David, I'll give David the credit in this about you said some of the cars that are not selling the quality of the example. What we find is when the market's going up, 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 some of the junk, in a way, garbage rises with the tide.
Yep.
So when you have those blue chip cars, and that's what I try to say, like with this comp we're going to look at here, this is a tricky car because it's a 1 year only. This is an 89 930 cab.
Last year.
Yep, G50.
G50 transmission.
Yep. So now what happens is when you look at these cars that are super collectible, the guys that are collecting these blue chip collectors, they're looking for rare color, rare options, extremely low mileage, and 1,000,000% original. Not even 100% original.
Yep.
So when you have like a 993 C2S that's worth whatever, and then you have a driver with 80,000 miles, there's a big market for that. But where's the market for somebody that wants to pay up for a 1 year only car that just really only has the transmission different than the prior year, that has a little bit of miles? If they want to drive the car, they're not going to pay 60 grand more than an 87 or an 88 turbo. And that's where the challenge comes in with this car. That's why there are a few of them no sale recently.
Yep.
And
a lot of no sales on these recently. This
yes.
one ended up selling at 121.
Yes. And we got it done.
Yep. Got it done. Nice car, original paint, lots of service.
Yep.
I say the only
Nice seller too.
Yeah. I mean, it's the lighter interior. You know, the wear on the interior.
Yeah.
Somebody could probably take this car, put some elbow grease into the interior, and it would bring more.
100%.
I think, you know, that was probably the detractor, in my opinion. Beautiful car.
Yeah.
It's the car I would want to own because the service records were this thick.
Yeah.
And it's not like 930s are service nightmares or there's anything. They're not a ticking time bomb.
No.
I mean, they're a basic mechanical turbocharged car. You know, nothing crazy to look out for. But when you have a 30-some-odd-year-old car, you want to see that upkeep. You know, just maintenance, just you know, fluids, some plastics, things like that. And this car had that. You know, I like buying the service history.
Yeah, me too. And I actually like these cars in white because you could see all the black accents
black.
on them and stuff like that. It's, you know, all the stuff we hated when we were younger. You had to arm roll all that to get the wax out of it. But now it's cool because it's gone. You know, but no, this was a nice car. And you know, this car, another big takeaway here, and I try to urge people this because maybe, hopefully, somebody who's selling a car is watching this. This car did 125 on Bring a Trailer a couple weeks ago. And as you could see, it didn't sell.
I know.
And it sold here. And, you know, $4,500 is it's a couple of dollars. You know what I mean? It's a couple of dollars. So the lesson I try to say to folks is a lot of people don't know what their best price is when it's staring them in the face. They say no to it. The second time around, it's not out of the realm that you may never get that price again. So this gentleman, $4 grand's a lot of money if you found it on the sidewalk. I say that to people all the time. But on a $120,000 transaction, he's not going to really feel it that much. But still, it probably would have helped him to have that 125. We have a couple in here. We've had a couple of sales where we've managed to produce more than what it no sale that. But in the norm is expect the car to do less. And I always urge people that the bidders may not even be bidding because they see the no sale. They think maybe you want 160, and they don't realize that this time you're ready. So, you know, being able to do a no reserve auction or announce early that the car is going to sell, the reserves being lifted, is paramount in these situations. And I try to drive that home with people because, you know, they're hearing what they don't want to hear, and they're getting, like, I guess maybe a little defensive, and we're just trying to give sound advice. Because at the end of the day, we want to see it get sold, and we want everyone to be happy. You know, it's not about just getting a quick sale.
I would say that one point that you just said, the reserve has been lifted.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of auctions, obviously, and I've recently seen that where somebody will say, you know, we're getting close to reserve. Okay, reserve's off, and then all of a sudden, bids come in because there are tons of people sitting there watching these as well.
That's right.
You know, there's a lot of people in the room not commenting,
They do
seeing
that at the
what
auction.
happens.
I did
Exactly.
the first man
on
I'm auction. They're screaming, "Let's sell it!" It's the guy's banging on the counter. That's the way it is. But you know, just because someone doesn't do that, don't assume the reserve's not off, because then you get those. I feel bad for the sellers when that happens. Then when I didn't know this was going to sell here, I would have bid more, and then they make everyone feel bad about the price. Don't do that. Yeah. Don't do that. Don't do that. But anyway, so moving on. Now this is probably a comp that is a culprit for why we've seen so many no sales. People are seeing numbers like this.
Yeah.
Because this was a Miley car.
Strong.
This was strong,
number.
but again, not to sound like David, you know, but he's right. Look at the presentation.
Yeah.
You know, this is a great seller. This guy answers people. He gets all his information. He's responsive. And he does really, really, like, look at the shot of that car. You know what I mean? Like the angle, it's nice. This is a really nicely presented car. The red tan is a big deal. And like we were saying earlier, this had
Sports seats.
Yep. And you mentioned that in our email last night. What do sports seats do to the value of these cars?
Yeah, they increase it. And sports seats, the bolsters looks good on that one. So well-kept interior.
Yeah, it's not all
the
chewed
piping.
up. Yeah. And by the way, for the record, if you ever watch our parts and memorabilia auctions, which, are growing rapidly, if you have anything of value that you're selling, don't sleep on that. We have cool signs, all this type of stuff, and Christmas is coming. So, the holidays are coming, so people looking for these gifts and stuff like that. If you had a pair of these seats in mint condition on P-Car Market, they will fetch between $5,000 and $10,000 for the seats alone. So, don't underestimate the value of that being on the build sheet and in the car and in good condition. That will increase the value. And this is, by the way, not just on these, the 964s too. Big deal on that.
Yeah.
So moving on to another 930. This was a little bit of an older comp, but I still think this car would maybe bring this kind of money, even though the market's a little adjusted, because this was a paint to sample. Yeah, so let's look at this car. What did you think about this one? Because I know you sent me this one. You must have liked this car.
Yep, I like this one. Again, paint to sample. So things that are going to differentiate your car from the rest of the cars in the market, because they made a few of these, and there's never not a 930 online for sale at any given time. There's always a handful of them.
I bet you there's a lot of red ones for sale.
A lot of red ones, yes. But color. Look
at this interior.
Color makes the car.
Yeah.
A paint to sample, so you're limiting the factor there, and then that paint to sample with an interior like that, it's absolutely gorgeous. Yes, it's not for everybody, but I guarantee it's for at least 3 or 4 bidders.
Yeah, 100%. And it had the original radio. And what a lot of people look at too is they look at one comp and then they think that's the market. That's not the case. You could always have 2 people really, into this car. They're not worried about an extra $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 even, and they'll pay. And that doesn't mean all the cars are worth that. And then the history and who's the car. This car, from what I recall, and I could be wrong, I believe this gentleman worked for Porsche Financial Services and had a career there. And he got this car when it was very close to new. So it's like almost an original owner car. So that's got to put 10 grand into the price, maybe even more.
A longer ownership history definitely helps.
Yeah.
And if you have a car that's 30 years old, then you have a person who's only owned it for a year, for 12 months, like how much do you really know the car you have?
Yeah.
But then you have a car that somebody's owned for 15, 20, 25 of those 30 years. They know the car inside and out. They have tons of documentation, most likely. So, again, you can buy the seller.
Yes, 100%. So now we're going to look at some earlier ones here. So this car didn't sell twice. So here it is on Bring a Trailer. It did 105. And then on P-Car Market, did 115. Great color, right? So this is a high mile car, 115,000 miles.
Yeah.
But you're buying an earlier Euro spec car.
78.
Yep. And look at this interior. And again, like you said, not everybody, like I think the red one was more of a broad appeal. This
blue on
really,
blue.
I could see some people hating this. I dig it. I think it's
I'm
cool.
a blue on blue.
Yeah, I like it.
Oh, yes.
But again, this didn't sell. And do you think the seller was crazy? Or you think that he made a mistake? I mean,
Final bid at 115. I mean, that's kind of light on that car. I've seen, it's Euro.
Yeah.
And one of the questions that Max asked, is there any difference between, USA cars, Euro cars, as far as the market value goes?
Right.
So with Porsche 930s, they stopped bringing the 930 to the US in 1980. We didn't see it back here again until 1986. And 15, 20 years ago, the difference between a Euro car and a US car value-wise, there was a difference there.
Yes.
But over this time period, a lot of these cars have just gotten beat to hell, whether they're Euro or US, modified, crashed. So now it's not so much a Euro versus US, it's condition of the vehicle.
Yeah.
So this car, Minerva Blue, I was surprised it was bid only to that 115 range, just based on the color alone. But it did have super, super high mileage.
And it was on the market,
these.
I believe it, possibly 4 times, minimum of 3 over the past 2 years. That does play in.
Yeah.
Because people, again, I never like to make assumptions or generalizations, but people will draw a conclusion, what's wrong with this car? Why is it being sold so
why
many
didn't
times?
it sell?
But again, that is BS, because this is a wealthy person's game. People buy things. It's like the flavor of the week. Okay, I'm moving this out. I found something else I like. That doesn't mean it's a bad car. Of course, if it was sold 4 or 5 times, you should look into why. But between all the flipping that goes on, people changing their minds, deaths, financial issues, cars get sold. It just happens.
Yeah. The fact that this one was bid the same general vicinity of bids twice.
Yeah.
That's the market.
That's the
I mean, the
market.
market's spoken on that.
Yeah, and listen, if the seller has the funds and the space to just say, listen, unless I get my whatever I wanted for the car, I'm gonna keep it. That's great. But if you want to sell something, you kind of just say, all right, I wanted this, but now I realize it's worth this. Let's take the money, move on to the next venture, because it's like all this time and bandwidth you're wasting, and it does hurt the car to just keep having it not sell.
Yeah, and there were other cars, comps with that mileage range at about 100,000. So he had about $15,000 premium for the color at that bid.
Yeah. And this was another situation here, same thing. This one was backwards, actually. It went on our site, 122. I love this car. This car was awesome. This is a really early car, to your point. It had the graphics. I don't know if people know that, but on these early turbos, they had these graphic packages, which is really cool.
I remember this one, the graphics matching the wheels.
Yeah.
This
was nice. And again, this car was it must have obviously been brought up to, kept up over the years because it had 95,000 kilometers, so not super high mileage, but driven car. Had this really cool interior. Obviously some light mods there.
Yep.
And this did 122. The seller wanted a little more. I don't think he was nuts, but then here's the danger in going to auction twice. Now, sometimes that matters and sometimes it doesn't. It did 115 the second time around, so I guess this car's still available, or maybe he kept it. I don't know. But I mean, that seems to be, I think that the line between Concours and Driver is getting like this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
Because before all of this increase in pricing, you could buy 930s for 80 to 100 grand that were drivers. That were not bad cars. They weren't perfect cars.
Excellent cars.
Yeah. So, and then this one was one that sold here. This is the last 930 we have. Where was it here? What did I do with it? That one. Sorry. This was an awesome car. This was a
roof modified.
Roof modified, really nice listing, really good seller. Look at this car.
Yep.
Those wheels, man. Because the Fuchs belong on these cars, but those wheels work.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
And, modified cars, they're hit or miss. It really depends on the quality of the work done. And, I mean, a roof modified, 930, there's nothing better than that.
No, and then you have to look into it because a lot of people are trying to, stick badges on things.
Yeah, this isn't a badge and a wheel job either.
No, it's not. And listen, like I'm a Mercedes guy.
Yeah.
It gets hairy with the AMG stuff. I mean, because they weren't as like crazy as Porsche with all their certificates and stuff like that. So like you have to know how to look at stampings and see if things look correct. And you're literally crawling under a car, looking at a rocker panel and making sure that's the one that came from AMG. And then, was the car done by AMG? Was it done at the factory after, or was it done after the car was sold and sent to an authorized installer? These all, and same thing with roof, right? There's a big difference between a roof VIN.
Oh yeah, roof VIN is one thing. Then you have done at the roof factory.
Right.
And then you have, parts slapped on at a, Porsche service center somewhere else in the world. All different things and all bring different values.
That's right.
Yep.
And they're all cool.
They're all cool.
But, if you value one that was done at the dealer the same as it was at the factory, you're going to be sitting with the car for a long, long, long time. So that's the deal with 930s right now. I mean, we do have, a lot of disparity in the numbers, but I think that, if you're looking at a driver grade car, you got to be in a certain threshold. And if you're looking at a Concours car, I think they're still going to bring the money.
Yeah.
If they're off by 5% or 10%, that's not terrible.
No,
it's not terrible,
right?
terrible.
And we have a couple really, really nice examples coming up for sale over the next few months. So it'll be interesting to see where the market goes, especially the higher end.
And a lot of people don't realize, people were putting money into these cars. Like, see, we're car guys. We buy stuff because we love it. There are people buying these cars because they're parking cash.
Yeah.
But cash is worth more money now. Interest rates are higher. So some people say, all right, I'm going to let this $200,000 car sit here for 7 years. Maybe it's worth $220 when I can get X% on my money now.
Yep.
When money was worth 2%, 3%, it's not.
You got to put it in the car. It's easier.
Exactly.
Much more fun.
So in the moving to the world of like resto mod, tribute cars, modded cars, that market's very healthy.
Yes. This was another question that I had put out there, and somebody asked it, and it's one that I kind of am interested in as well.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at these, and a lot of times you can see the different lineage between, there's different tiers of the market.
Yes.
For these resto mod, reimagined or whatever, what have you cars. Like this ST was really cool with the 3.4 liter. And you guys sell quite a few of these.
Yeah, we did a whole podcast on them. We always touch on it because it's a big topic. And what I'll say is you got to categorize the car, who built it, Was it a full restoration? What motor's in it? Who built the motor? The color? Is it a wide body? Blah, blah, blah. To get yourself in some type of a bracket and then throw it out the window.
Yep.
Because it's all emotion. These cars will never do the same price twice. Like if you take a 930 like that one we sold, 121 is the same as 125. It really is. These cars can swing big, big, big. This car made me admittedly nervous because it was in another country. You know, sometimes you lose bidders. And it was sitting yesterday at like 75 grand. I got like one big bid in the beginning, so it was never low bids. And the seller called me, nice guy, and he's like, oh, I'm a little worried. I'm like, it all happens in the end. And all of a sudden, all these bidders started coming in, and I looked, and David and I were talking, and we were like really delighted to see every bidder was in another country.
Really?
We had Italy, France, Belgium, and Switzerland.
And where was this car?
It was in Belgium.
Okay.
And it wound up selling to California. But it was a worldwide, this was like an Olympic battle for this car. And it was a really, really cool car. So I think this car sold in Bring a Trailer years ago for 100, and it did 110. So it's consistent. Yeah, I mean, it went up a little bit, nothing crazy. And it's in another country, so it's hard. I don't know if that car is worth more in the U.S. On paper, this is probably what it's worth, but the color and the way this car sits, 100 wouldn't have been out of line.
True ST lookalike.
Right.
Or tribute.
Yeah. 100 wouldn't have been out of line, and 140 wouldn't have been out of line. 200 would have been ridiculous.
Yeah. I think part of the question that this gentleman was asking too is it worth doing a tribute? Are you going to get your money out of it? And that's a no.
Yeah,
that's a no.
Unless you're on a list with it, unless you do it with a builder that somehow blows up.
Yeah.
And becomes big.
Yep.
But never worry about that.
Don't worry about it. Do a tribute, do it for fun. I mean, most restorations, like if you buy a car and go to restore it, you're not getting your money back.
Oh, yeah, well, listen, when you get to American cars, it's even worse. We've seen people have $400,000 or $500,000 to a car and get 70.
Yep.
Just let that sink in for a second.
Yeah, it's
so
not
with
that
these
bad
cars,
here with these,
if you get carried away with paint and special custom, enhancements, that money will maybe a large portion will be gone. But in general, you start with a good 911, do solid paint, a nice engine. A good percentage of your investment is safe. You're not losing half.
Yeah.
If you take one of these cars and don't get assaulted by the guy who's building it, like get overcharged to the moon.
Tons of metal work. That's going to increase
you put
the price.
$250 into a car, you're going to get $175 to $250 back. You're not going to get $80 back. It's not going to be like building like a 34 Ford or whatever, and chopping, shaving things, and that's just all. Yeah.
Now the only market that I've seen where you could buy a car, modify it and then sell it for more, was for a while there on the modified overland Cayennes.
Yeah.
The prices for those at one point last year were just mind-boggling. Like you could go on, buy a stock car, take those same parts, and be in it for less than what people were paying.
Can I tell you something?
At
You know what the common denominator is there between these and those? Not just Porsche. You're able to use them.
So I guess on the Cayenne front, people are just paying to have it's done already. I don't have to do it. It's convenient. They're paying a convenience fee at that point.
It's a pain doing all the work.
It's a convenience fee for the Cayennes.
It's a pain.
They've come down. It's been a little bit more reasonable lately.
Yeah.
There's that one period. I was like, what am I doing wrong? I need to start buying these and just throw some rims and lights on it.
Exactly.
It was wild.
Exactly. While we're talking about the next car, I'm going to pull one up. So this car, I got an education. Okay, I saw this car. I was like, what is this thing? And we know this guy. He built a lot of cool cars. His name's Don Ramsey. I'm sure he won't mind me mentioning his name. He builds cool stuff. And this thing, people went nuts for this thing because I knew what the reserve was.
Yeah.
And it was at like 30 grand. And I'm like, we must have assessed this wrong, because I have a lot of faith in him. You know what I mean? So I kind of trusted his, and you don't want to insult an artist. I mean, I don't want to tell a guy like, oh yeah, the reserve should be 50. You want over 100. And all of a sudden, people were fighting for this car.
Yeah.
Fighting. I mean, look at the bids on this. I mean, they weren't just like, 76, 82. They weren't doing like the 250 routine. 68, 76. You know what I'm saying? Like people were swinging for this car.
I think a lot of it had to do with, the quality of the work, but the fact that they showed the work in progress of the build.
Yes.
And what went into it.
Yeah. Well, let's listen to this car. We'll put up this video here. Hold on. This car was awesome. Whoops. flat six, you know? If he hired a production company, this car would have done even more money. You know
I
what
love
mean?
it.
Yeah. This was a driver's car, and the people bidding on this, they knew what they were looking at. That's what's cool about our audience. They
Yep.
know what they're looking at. All right, this is a cool trip. All right, so this is a nothing mechanical, right? This is
Yep.
all eye candy,
All looks.
garage jewelry.
It looks really good.
It looks amazing. I'm excited to
Yeah.
see it. Really cool guy bought this. I just met him as a result of the sale. He's over here.
So you'll see this car.
Big car guy. He bought 2 outlaw like hot rod cars on our site in a month, and this was the second one. The other one was a G body with like a motor in it. This one was all the looks.
Yep.
And Riviera Blue is Riviera Blue. I mean, if this was a real RS in this color, you get like $100, maybe more $1,000 premium on the price. Okay.
Yep. Just for the color alone.
So
Easy.
this is another one. So this is one I'll toot my horn for a second here, because on the other car we sold like a few thousand less. This car did 121 on Bring a Trailer, which quite frankly they should just sold it. They took a gamble here, but they took a gamble and they won. So that's why sometimes people say you don't know what you're talking about to me. I'm just a babbling idiot. We got 127. Okay, so for $6,000, it was worth the effort. Hopefully to them. Great guys in California that have been selling a lot of stuff with us. This car was, I mean, look at this. Look at this. This is just, and the photography here obviously played a major role.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you take a Carrera, high quality paint job, some interior bits, the wing, the wheels. You could kind of build this in this range. However, do you want to go through the hassle and wait a year or two and chase body guys around? You know what I mean? Is it done? Is it
That's
done?
just
I need the
perfect.
car. Yeah. So I think that it was fair on both sides. I don't think that a huge premium was awarded for the skipping the wait time.
No, not at all. I mean, okay.
Yeah.
And you take a regular 993 Carrera 6, take a decent car, you're 80,
Yep.
$80,000 car. Is there $40,000 in paint and body? If it's a super quality, maybe 20, 25.
Yeah.
Depends how much metal work they did, how much the parts were. You're getting up
Exactly.
there.
No, you can get there. But the story's going to continue on this car because
He's going to do the engine.
claims, he says he's
There we
going to
go.
do it. So this car could wind up being a $250,000 car if he does the right
3.8
stuff.
liter.
Yep.
Built 3.8 liter, and this is a $250,000 car.
It is. It
All
is.
day, every day.
A 4-liter would be a $300,000 car
Yep.
plus, So yeah, that was a cool one. And then this one I'm very
that
excited
one.
about. This was,
That was interesting.
I wanted this car.
Yeah.
Somebody got an amazing car, because if this drives the way I think it does, you've got a 4-liter that you don't have to worry about driving. It was a real GT3 to start.
And you got it for $146,000.
The seller was delighted. The seller
Yeah.
was delighted. And
Everybody should be happy.
this
here.
was a
is great.
fair, good seller. This was a
Yeah.
guy that if you had 100 guys like this a week, would just be selling everything. I mean, he was amazing to deal with. He pulled it through because he was in Hawaii and the car was in California, so we really wanted more photos. But he was so genuine coming across, and he was so good at answering the questions, and there was enough here that people knew what they were getting. But this car was incredible.
Yeah. And I wonder if we're going to start to see more cars like this now come out of the woodworks, like modern GT3s tributing a 4-liter.
Why not?
Or something, yeah.
And just to your point about getting the money back, if you bought a GT3 cosmetically nice, but maybe it was tracked and the motor was toast
Yeah.
for 80 grand, you could build this car and get your money back.
But are there GT3s out there with blown engines that you could
Not
do that?
cosmetically nice, but
Yeah,
you
not
can
cosmetically nice.
find them. You can
Yeah.
find them.
But the money, too, that went into the updated, fenders, front end, rear end, wing.
Yes.
But
But that wasn't
body work.
mandatory, though. See,
Yeah.
to me, this car is all about the driving
All
experience.
about the engine.
I was not
Yeah.
at all. I would have paid the same amount of money.
If
there was
it
no
looked like
value
a
add
stock.
for me. Yeah, I don't need to look like a 4-liter when I'm not. I
Yeah.
think an 07 GT3 is a lovely car to begin with.
Yeah.
I actually would have left the stock wheels, even though I'm a big fan of Champion wheels. We'll give a shout out to Champion. They make awesome stuff. But on this car, they were big. And I would have been a fan of leaving GT3 wheels on this and just leaving it stock, maybe even like if you found a yellow one or an orange one or a green one, and just doing the power plant.
Just all the power.
Yeah.
Yep. Like a Shark Works,
Yeah, because
pump
this is a
up
car
or
you're going
whatnot.
to drive.
Yeah. Very nice.
Yeah.
I was excited to see this one. This was a first.
All right.
To see something like this.
Yeah. So I think that's about all we have for today. We
All
appreciate
right.
everyone tuning in. I hope that everyone enjoyed it without David here, because I like having 3 people. We got to get a guest maybe on the next one, and we're going to try to put out another one very, very soon, definitely before the holidays. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Pig on Market Live YouTube channel, Facebook,
We
Am I
got
missing anything?
Stuttgart Market Letter,
Stuttgart Market Letter.
Instagram, Facebook.
Parts and memorabilia.
Yep. Oh,
Okay.
yeah. Christmas is
I'm
coming.
going to give Will a shout out in our California office. He has decided to step up and really help us grow that. We are getting inundated with submissions for the parts and memorabilia, and we're getting some really cool stuff, and we're trying to get to everybody and find even cooler stuff and just have the really the sickest offerings in the market right now with that stuff. So that's a really, so if you have anything cool, submit it. You're going to be able to speak to Will. He's like personally getting involved with all this right now, and he's out in that California car scene in LA, and he's plugged in with all the right guys over there, and
Very cool.
we have some cool stuff coming on. So keep an eye on all that. All right?
All right. Well, thanks for having me.
Thank you so
Great
much
to be
for being
here.
here. Yep. Take care, everybody.
All right. We'll see you.